You mention a word, Israel, and behind it, there's a whole story. There's been a whole story for thousands of years. There's been a people who the goal of other nations is to eradicate them. So they live under a tension that you and I have probably never had to. Please pray for them. We've got a church in Ukraine. We talk to the Israeli guys virtually every day, the Ukrainian guys very often. We're on a Zoom call to them or a call and they say, we've got to get into the bunker now, I'm sorry, and the phone goes down and they run into a shelter. To live in a war zone, to live in all of that complication should give us perspective over the problems that we think we have. The problems you have with your finances and with your car and with your headaches and the rest are all very real to you. But in perspective, let's thank God. We're living in one of the most peaceful countries, whatever you think about it, one of the most beautiful countries on the planet, and you are so blessed. All right. Are you ready for the word? The book of John, the fourth gospel in the New Testament, the writer John refers to 7 what you and I would call miracles. But he doesn't call them miracles in any of those 7. He calls them signs. Because in John's mind, I think he wanted the people of the time, and he wants people of today, and he wants people of Brisbane to understand that life is not all about what we can get God to do for us. It's seeing that there is someone who does the miracles, and the who is way more important than the what. We have bred churches to our detriment that gather together on Sundays with a list of things that we want God to do for us. I want to suggest to you this morning, we're going to have a morning where it's not going to be about what God can do for us, but what we can do for him. I want us to not just be asking Jesus for stuff. I want us to find a place where by the end of the service, all we've really done is see Jesus, as opposed to looking for the stuff that Jesus can do. I'm going to call this seeking miracles or seeing Jesus. You're not very excited about that, but you will be. Here's a gospel account in John chapter 6. It's the story of walking on water. And I've preached on the miracle of walking on water probably many times over the last 40 years. But I'm not even going to refer hardly to walking on water because it's not about the miracle, as you'll see. This is what John writes in John chapter 6. When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. By now it was dark and Jesus had not yet joined them. A strong wind was blowing and the waters grew rough. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on the water, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "It is I. Don't be afraid." Then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading. Matthew and Mark, 2 of the other 4 gospel writers, write about this miracle of walking on water. John's account is the shortest. If you notice, he doesn't even mention Peter walking on water. Did you notice that? You and I, when we think of the walking on water, we remember Jesus walked on water and then Peter got out of the boat. And it's a great message to preach. It's a valid thing to say somebody actually did what Jesus did. But John is saying there's something about that story that I don't want you to miss. It's not a story about Peter. For John, it's always a story about Jesus. And the miracles are signposts to say, please stop looking at the miracles alone. Please look for Jesus. Look at the one who does those things. Don't just get lost in the excitement of the things that he does. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel a bit sorry for Peter. Here we are in Brisbane, and he probably listened to me read that. He says, why didn't you just read the Matthew version? Just get the Mark one out. There's a better version there because it's about me. That's the point. that John wants us to know. If it was you or I that had done something as crazy as walking on water, we'd be on Instagram by the time we'd dried our feet off. We'd be wanting the TV cameras. We'd be telling everybody for the rest of our lives, because to us it would have been about the miracle. But I wonder how many would walk on water, and instead of going on Instagram to say what I've just done, how many would be saying, did you see it was Jesus that called me, that asked me to come, to say, come over? Did Jesus not say to you, come follow me? Was there not a night or a day or a season in your life when Jesus said, come, and you followed and you became the believer? But if we're not careful, that will from that point on make a lot of our life about us. I love in this story that he deals with a storm. John wants us to see that Jesus turned up not in the easiest of times, but in the toughest of times. But what it says about Jesus is this. Just think about the power of God versus the power of nature, for instance, because it's right there in the story. Nature is often viewed as the most powerful, uncontrollable force on the planet. We lived in Brisbane for 18 years. I learned as a POM. I mean, if you're in England, you stay away from the ocean. You know that, hey? So as children, you're warned, don't go near the ocean. The ocean in England is cold, grey, dangerous, miserable. A beach is usually a few pebbles on the other side of a wall. It's like you don't enjoy it. So I come over here and I see the beautiful beaches and the oceans, but I also know that I don't know how to read a rip. I also know that I'm not the world's greatest swimmer. I also know that we've had a couple of experiences with our kids younger in life when I realized, mate, this ocean is too powerful for me. When I'm trying to get my kids back to shore and the water's taking me the wrong way, I kind of know that. So I've got great respect for what you could call as nature. And yet right here in the story, you have the force of nature. You have a storm. You have a storm that causes disciples who grow up in that part of the world fearful of what is happening in the nighttime and in the storm. And yet, in that context, Jesus appears. Here's the 4 observations. Firstly, storms do happen. Now, some of you may have experienced storms and may have handled them better than I have. When I was younger, we were doing ministry. We were leaving England to go to Spain with a team to do kind of evangelism and stuff. And because it was a large group of people, we went on the boat. Now, you can leave the south of England in a town called Plymouth and go all the way around the Bay of Biscay, which is all the way around France, and then you hit the north of Spain, Santander. 24 hours on a boat. Now, I'm not good on boats. I get seasick having a shower. And so I get on this boat, and everything's great for about 30 minutes. And suddenly you come out of the protection of the land around, and you hit this Bay of Biscay, and suddenly it starts lunging. And I'm talking about a small ship, you know, with 200 cars and probably a couple of thousand people. I mean, a big mama. And yet the thing's going up and going down. And I'm thinking, this is awful. We've just gone into the food canteen. And suddenly, you know, they have vats with the big silver tops on it. They've just taken them all off. And people are queuing up to order some food. And suddenly the food is jumping out of the vats. And now there's soup and stuff mixed with the dessert all over your shoes. And this is not a good sight. And I'm panicking. I'm thinking, 24 hours? We're like an hour into this. I got 23 hours. I am not going to survive. I'm giving words of faith to my brothers that I'm about to die. I am not going to survive. I can't do this. What can I do? I can't do this. I can't manage it. I'm not going to. And then it gets worse. Then the toilets start doing what toilets shouldn't want. And we're moving on. It was disgusting. It was horrible. The stench adds to it. You want to go outside to get some fresh air, and then the ocean comes and smacks you in the face and knocks you back inside again. It was awful. I wasn't great. But the fact is, storms happen physically, naturally. Storms happen in life. And sometimes you have experienced periods where you think, I can't make this. I cannot survive this. Not thinking of, I get through this in 23 hours. Thinking, I don't know how I'll ever get through this. Storms do happen. And if you haven't lived seasons like that, this is still a good lesson for you what to do when that kind of crisis, trauma, storm hits your life. Notice that when you and I go through stuff, the characteristics of this storm is exactly how storms in people's lives work. It was nighttime. You know, when you're going through the greatest crises, how tough is it when you put your head on the pillow? When there's nobody else there? When the lights go out? When your mind is still racing and your heart is still pumping of how I'm going to get through this, and it's the nighttime. It was dark. They said Jesus wasn't there. They said he was 3 or 4 miles away, that they'd already gone onto the lake. And it's at that time in that season that sometimes you feel, where is Jesus right now when I need him? I don't feel him because I feel the fear. It says that there was a strong wind blowing. Not just some little breeze in the air, but this is like in your face, tough to go through. It says the water was growing rough. It says they were a long way from safety. And that's how some people's lives are now, have been, and potentially could be. But there's a good part to this story. Don't forget. If you've never been there, thank God. If you ever do, or you ever have to help someone, thank God, because there is a way through all of this. So firstly, John's story is, notice the storm, because storms happen. The second thing that John is picking out is that Jesus shows he's divine. Now, people miss this in the story. This is a proof that Jesus is God. Jesus is God. His act of walking on water demonstrates his control over nature. He's reinforcing who has the greater power and authority, the creator or the creation. And right here, Jesus is demonstrating who's boss, who has authority, who has greater power. You see, Genesis 1, you don't even have to get out of the first book of the Bible. And it says, in the beginning, God Elohim. God created heavens and the earth. Elohim is plural. Father, Son, Spirit, the whole nature of God. Jesus, who you could depict as being the Word, the Word in the beginning, as John himself puts at the beginning of his gospel in John chapter 1. The Word at the beginning. So God, at the very beginning, created. He created all things. He created what you and I look at as nature. And now people worship nature because they're seeing the result of what a creator has done and saying, how beautiful is creation. And most people are missing the point that it is so beautiful and powerful because the one who created it is the one who knows how to create the most beautiful and the most powerful. By walking on water, he's demonstrating his divinity, proving his God, his control, his authority over nature. In the Old Testament, this is the book of John in the Gospel of the New Testament. In the Old Testament, it talks about what God did with nature. He stilled, this is Psalm 107, he stilled the storm, this is Old Testament, with a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. See, God of the Old Testament has already done what Jesus in the New Testament has done. Why? Because Jesus is God. And from the oldest of times in the Old Testament, you can imagine God. It talks again about a storm. And he can still the storm with a whisper. Why? Because he's God. It's not about God screaming and shouting and trying to put the nature in order. He just has to whisper and nature has to beckon to his call. And so Jesus in this New Testament story, by the very act of walking on water and stilling a storm, is showing I am God from the beginning, and I am the God that your forefathers have told about that stilled the storms, and I'm going to do it right before your very eyes because he is God. The third thing is Jesus is God's presence in a storm. The storm was raging, and Jesus steps into the story physically. Jesus was on the banks in the safety, and the believers, the disciples were in the storm on the lake 3 or 4 miles away. And that's why when Jesus comes in, the most important part of a story is when he says, don't worry, it is I. That is what changes everything. It directly refers to the fact that it's me, God the Son, Son of God. You know that Jesus is God the Son because of Genesis 1, but you know he's a Son of God by the New Testament. It's the beauty and the power of Trinity. I love preaching on Trinity because it confuses us all. You'll never get your head around the full implication of the Trinity. And here's Jesus saying, it is I. Who went to Hillsong Conference this week? Just give me a little wave. What was the theme? I am. Exodus chapter 3, we've referred to it this week a number of times. It says, God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. And so Jesus steps on water, makes his way to the proximity of the boat, and all he has to say is, I am. The one you've read about, you've declared it, your synagogue leaders have talked about it, you've read the Old Testament scriptures about God being I am. If you're fearful, you just need to know this. I am. I'm here. I am. It's me. That's all they needed to know, and that's all you and I need to know. Sometimes we think, no, I want more than that. I want God to, can he not arrange a couple of prophecies so somebody in the church can tell me what the answer is to the question of God? And God says, well, I am. So you just need me in it, and we'll work it. Yeah, but can you put that in writing? Can we have a contract, God? I want to know that we're going to get through this. He says, but I am. I am. Yeah, but don't I need more than that? Do you need more than God? Do you need more than the presence of Jesus? If you're in a storm and in a boat, wouldn't you look at him and think, well, now we have hope. Now there's a way. We're in the storm thinking we're not going to make it to the other side. But Jesus is here. Jesus is actually here. This is good news. This means we're going to be all right. Why? Because it's him. That's how we should be thinking when we're facing our storms. If I could just know that God was with me in this, then I can rest in who he is, not start looking for contracts of how I'm going to get through this, not making some arrangements to survive in other ways, just knowing that God is right here. It is I. Don't look at Jesus as the son of Mary and Joseph. Don't listen to stories of Jesus as if he's just a teacher and a moral leader. Don't put Jesus alongside other religious leaders. Don't underestimate him. He's the I am, who always has been. And when he steps into your situation, you're going to be okay. I want you to know that the only one who can always get us to the other side is the one who has no limitations upon him. He can control nature. He can control anything because he's God. Your spouse might love you very much. I hope he or she does. Your best friends might be willing to do anything for you to help you out. You might even know some people in high places that might be able to arrange a couple of little sneaky things just to get you through whatever it is. But when you've got access to the Son of God, when you've got Jesus on your side, when it's Christ in you, not just you in Christ, it changes the whole perspective. The little boy, the little girl who's crying at night, having a nightmare, and to be woken up and just knowing that Daddy's there just knowing that Daddy is right there is often enough in the heart and the mind of a little child, because they're not thinking through all the implications and the medical things and psychological things and what was a nightmare and why did I have a nightmare and talking to a doctor in the morning. They just want to know Daddy's there and it's all okay. We've overcomplicated so much, and we need to probably get back to being a little bit more straightforward. Jesus walked on water because his goal was to get to his disciples. He knew the fear, he knew the darkness, he knew the storm, he knew all of that, and he also knew the fear that was within him. And so he was willing to do anything to get to them. And he will do whatever it takes to get to you in the darkest of times. It is I. That's why in verse 20 he could say, now don't be afraid. Because once you reckon that you've got God on your side, once you reckon that Jesus is the one that's come to you proactively to help you go forward, then he can say, don't be afraid. And now we have a choice to make. So how is life going to work out for you? How are you going to get through this one that you're in? Or the thing that's pending? Or the darkness that you've experienced? Maybe you were in a place of living in light and freedom, and then suddenly things happen and it gets pretty dark in there. How are you going to get through all of that? How are you going to face some of you this week? Some of you, it's on a Sunday and you've got things pending this coming week that you're not looking forward to, that you have to do, you have to say, you have to do in the workplace, you have to do in a relationship. There might be a forgiveness issue that you or somebody's going to have to break this one way or another to get this thing moving. There might be marriage things that you think, I don't really want to face the conversation. I don't want to face the big stuff. There's all sorts of things in a crowd this big that we are facing even the week that comes. How are you going to do it? You've got lots of choices, but I'll tell you what the best one is. It's to recognize that the Lord comes to you. And the one who comes is truly the Lord, who is truly God, who is truly all-powerful and all-authoritative. And you'll face that situation in a much better scenario by stopping and seeing that it's him that's there with you, as opposed to focusing on what it is that you're facing. You see, I think we read some of the scriptures and we fail to apply big principles to the practical now. For instance, Matthew 28, verse 20. It's the end of the gospel, and I'm a missiologist by training, and I get all excited about this because it's about reaching the world and the nations and the rest of it. But look at it again, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. And we kind of preach that as being it's some kind of church message. The Lord's no. When you're going through the storm, you need to realize that's also what he meant. He will be with you always. John 17 is John again. The chapter on Jesus praying for unity. I've made you known to them and will continue to make you known. That's Son talking to Father. In order that the love you have for me may be in them, and that I myself might be in them. And we do that as a preaching and a message on the unity of believers. But he's promising all the way through all the scriptures, I am in them. I am there for them. I will be with them. Colossians chapter 1, Paul's now talking. To them, God has chosen to make known among the Gentiles the glorious riches of the mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you. You don't have to go looking for Jesus Christ, hoping that he's going to walk on water across the Brisbane River today to find you somewhere. He's right here, and now understand he is within you. You don't have to go on a journey to look for him. You don't need to see, has anybody seen him? I'm trying to find Jesus. Jesus said it is I am. And guess where I am? I'm in you. Your address is his address. Wherever you live, he lives. Wherever you walk, wherever you go, wherever you travel to, he is right there, because he is not only the Jesus who comes, he's the Jesus who is geographically, physically, naturally right there in the center of your life. So don't have to look for him. He's right there. You have to open your eyes. and accepting your man. Hebrews chapter 13. So can you see him? Hebrews chapter 13 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. So we preach all about the money. But God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Not only is he in you, but he'll never, ever leave you. He's never going to not be there. You might see him in a worship time on a church Sunday. You might feel him when you prayed in some desperate time that you had sometime in the midweek saying, God, please help me in this, please help me. And you felt that God helped you. But all between those events, between those moments, between those points in the diary, he never moved. He's always there with you, in you, for you, on your side. So stop looking elsewhere to think Jesus, almost as if he's not here and now I have to find you. You just need to open your eyes. And the promises of God are never going to change. He's never going to promise to us that he'll always be with us and then change his mind and disappear. We're the disappearers. We're the ones who stop looking. We're the ones that go to other sources. We're the ones that live in the fear instead of turning in faith to the one who is there. We're the ones who can sing songs about Jesus and not understand that Jesus is right there in us, through us. It is Jesus who is here. It is Jesus who builds his church. It's not Andy and Jade or the Dixons or anybody else. It is Jesus. Do we see Jesus in everything, everywhere? Are we like this with Jesus? Because the day you said yes to him, you stepped into a whole experience whereby the Spirit of God, you have the presence of God within you, not close to you, not in the church building. Doesn't matter how many different auditoriums you add to this facility, it won't mean Jesus has got more chance to be near to you. He's already there and he will never walk away. We've stopped seeing Jesus. We've been seeking the miracles and the things that he does. Can you see him? You know, we can get so busy in our lives, and you guys, I'm sure, have got full lives with so much going on with the work and with family and with business and with finance and with traffic. I don't even know why I said traffic, because Brisbane doesn't really have any traffic. In London, by the way, you get in a queue at a traffic light on Monday morning, and you get through it on Tuesday evening. That's traffic. That's what I'm talking about. So whatever's going on, all the things that you have to do, we can be as busy can be. Have you ever thought Jesus doesn't have a moment off? Doesn't have a moment's rest. And he's got, even if he just had all of us to take care of, I mean, that's a big job for God. I mean, we're a disaster, let's face it. Joyce, I reckon Joyce has got one of the most overworked angels on the planet. She says it herself, so I'm not speaking out of turn. How many times have you lost your passport, your phone dropping on it? I mean, it happens like almost every other day, right? And there she is saying, God, forgive me again. I can't remember what I did with my phone, where it is. Yesterday it was the glasses disappeared. We found the glasses, her glasses, 2 days later in the same, on where we'd parked a car on a grass verge, and the glasses were still there 2 days later. It's like God looks after, God hasn't abandoned. So she's like, I haven't got my glasses, I haven't got my phone, I've lost this. God hasn't shifted. God knows everything, sees everything. He's got us he's got us to sort out and to look after 24/7. The whole planet that believes in him becomes his responsibility. And we kind of notice him when it's in our, in our interest. We notice him on Sunday mornings. You can't avoid him because you come in and people say, God bless you, and God's right there, hey? You come in and you sing a song about the Lord, so obviously the Lord's there, right? We prayed before, and he was praying for all loads of needs and stuff. Well, the Lord's obviously here to answer prayer, right? But what happens when you go to the bathroom? What happens when you get in the car? Did we leave him behind? Did he stay here? You see, it sounds ridiculous, but it's what we do. Our gaze shifts. Our thinking shifts. Our meditation our concerns shift. Our worries shift. Our need shifts, and suddenly we left Jesus in the worship time, or we left him in the service. Or some people get in the car and they say, thank you, Jesus. Beautiful, beautiful time together. But they get in the car and they know the Lord is right there with them. And they get out of the car and they go for lunch and he's in the conversation. And they bring up their kids and they talk to their kids tonight with a bit of wisdom because they've asked Jesus for wisdom to be a better parent. And they go to bed at peace because God has got control of their life. And they wake up in the morning and they say, thank you, Lord, for another day that you have given because you're the giver of life. Thank you that my eyes have opened again. You've given me another adventure to live. And they see God in everything. That's where I want you to live. That's where I want you to live. That's where we want church. Stop bringing churches up to believe that he's there to do stuff for us. But we're here to worship him, to know him, to walk with him, to trust him, to believe in every circumstance. Isn't it an amazing story? The one that blows my mind, the Emmaus Road story. When Jesus is walking with two dudes and they don't recognize him. It sounds crazy, but I reckon we do it all the time. I don't reckon we're always considering that Jesus is part of that. We think marriage is something we decide and we thank God for it. And then from there on, we work that out on a natural level sometimes. Our parenting, we work it out on a natural level. We read some good books. We talk to another couple of parents. We do all the rest of it. But the Lord is right there, the best tutor, the most knowledge, the most wisdom. Is infinite. To live life knowing that the Lord is at the center of everything, even the breath that you breathe today, is a better perspective than thinking he resides in a church when we're praying and worshiping. We've missed the point. So people, Jesus doesn't turn up on Sundays. He turns up every hour of every day. Young adults, when you're pursuing jobs and careers, partners, life goals, Jesus is in the decisions that you can make. Make sure he is. See him there. Invite him to be part of all of that. Parents, he's in the chaos. The nappies, the school runs, the teen dramas. He's just waiting for you to recognize that he can be right there with you, with his wisdom, with his peace, with his help. Seniors, Jesus is still writing your story. You haven't retired from walking with him. See him every moment of every day, in your day and in your tomorrow. And the last observation is this. We can progress, if we're in a storm, from fear to faith. You see, it actually says in what I read that they were terrified. That word is a dramatic word. They weren't just having a tough time, they were in a terrifying time. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said. Matthew 14, verse 33, like 7 verses later, truly you are the Son of God. From fear to faith. Our journey has to be from fear to faith. You know, you and I are never going to be the perfect believer, the one who gets everything right. But if we can just get this right, we might still make some mistakes, but you know the Lord never will. So you're on better footing. There's a UK TV series that we really enjoyed watching, Joyce and I. I can't even remember the name of it. It's about a father and a son. It was a guy that... Have you ever seen The Chase on TV? This is the English version. The guy is called Bradley Welsh. Yep. Bradley Welsh. And they did this other program about him and his son because they get on so well. And so they did this series with the father and the son. And he's one of these TV personalities that everybody kind of loves in England. He's just a non-complicated, good man, good wife, good relationship, good son. And so they did this thing about him and his son traveling around doing crazy stuff together. But they find out that he's got a fear of heights. And that wasn't a good bit of information for Bradley Walsh. Because then every day they get up and they're doing an adventure, doing something, maybe seeing a beautiful place. And so they're talking about the experience of this place. But this day, it's Dad, today's going to be awesome. And I just want you to know, you just need to say yes when they tell you what today is. And already he's like, What are they going to ask me to do? What are they going to ask me to do? You do that and I do that. Don't worry about it, Dad. Don't worry. When we get there, where are we going? Where are we going, son? Where are we going? We're going to the airfield. Oh, we're not going to the airfield. What are they going to do to me in an airfield? That sounds dangerous. They put him on a plane. They take him up and they say, today you're going to jump off a plane. And, of course, the cameras are on this guy inside. And he's saying to his son, I'm not doing this. Who told you that we should be doing this? I didn't sign up for this. I thought we were seeing nice places. He says, Dad, this is a great experience. You'll be fine. You'll be great. And so he goes on the plane and they open it all up. And here's Bradley Walsh, panic on his face. But, of course, they've strapped him, obviously, to, an expert. He's harnessed on there. And so they get to the front and he says, are you ready, Bradley? No. And he pushes the guy back. I'm just not ready. And he has like 2 or 3 goes at this. Until eventually the guy's got hold of him. And he says, just trust me, you're going to be absolutely fine. I've got this. I do this like every day, many times, don't worry. And they go off. And then there's obviously another jumper down there with a camera in his face, and he's absolutely panic-stricken. But he gets down, lands on the ground, and he's not celebrating, he's just glad he's alive, And so it's a pretty awesome, 30-minute show or whatever. And a couple of shows later, Dad, we've got a great day lined up today. I hope it's not like that last one. Never do that to me again, son. He says, no, Dad. We're going to see a bridge and a river that's going to blow your mind. Goodness knows what country they were in. So he's walking over the bridge and says, oh, son, this is beautiful. Look at the mountains over there. Look at the water. Oh, this is fantastic. Until he notices halfway across the bridge, it's a bungee jump. And he says, son, what have you done? You didn't tell them I was going to do. No, I can't do this. I did that thing. I thought I was going to die. I mean, don't do this to me, son. Don't do this. Dad, you can do this. This is going to be awesome. And the dad's saying, I don't want to do this for television. This is scary. This is real. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I mean, you don't want me to do this. You don't want to be dying. You're not going to die here, Dad. It's fine. You're going to be good. And you got this whole episode where now they're harnessing him and he's panic-stricken again. The poor guy, all for TV. The money's not worth it, I've got to tell you. And so they take him and he goes to the end, to the precipice, and he looks down and, no, don't look down. Too late, I just looked down. And he says, go on, Bradley, you can go. Whenever you're ready, just go. And he goes 3 times, and every time he walks back. And in the show, the guy says, I'm just sorry, I just can't do it. And starts taking it off and walks away. And it's kind of not what the TV company wanted, but it's the reality. The difference, fear to faith. Those 2 things, there is one big difference. One, he did it, and one, he refused to do it. What he said yes to was when he trusted the person who's going to take him on the jump. He trusted the expertise. He trusted the experience. He trusted the knowledge. He trusted the person who absolutely knew how to get through what is an unnatural situation that you're in right now. On the bungee jump, it's just, am I going to jump or am I not? And I don't trust me. I can't do this on my own. I just can't do it. And fear was greater. You know what? We have the same choices. The difference is, if you can see Jesus, instead of just keep looking for what he can do for you, if you can see him instead of just focusing on the storm or focusing on the miracle that you need, if you can just listen to him say to you today, it's me. I am. And I'm right here. It might be the best refocus of your spiritual eyes that you could ever learn for the rest of your life. If you can walk into the rest of your life not looking at the other things, the fear, the storm, or even the miracles. It's amazing how when we really need God to come through, we can pray longer. We pray with more passion, more fervor, because we're in need. But as soon as the need's been met, then we lose the passion. We lose the focus. We don't pray as long. We don't see him in everything. We only want him when we need him. I don't know about you, but that must hurt. That hurts as a dad if your kids only want you when they need something. When they're little, they need everything. You're happy to do everything for them. But you imagine when they're 40 years of age, if the only time they ever talk to you is to ask you for some money, ask you to do something for them, ask them to help you get out of a mess. That would hurt as a parent. Imagine God if we only see him as the miracle worker. I love the idea, God, that you're a provider. Of course you do, because you want him to provide for you instead of just celebrating that he's a provider, whether he gives to you or not. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to have a problem-free few moments before we leave. We're going to have a not ask God for anything few minutes. We're going to have a worship. We're going to look into Jesus' face and love him, love on him, tell him how much we love him, see him with our physical eyes, spiritual eyes, see him in your heart, sing this song, whatever it is the team's going to do. I just said, let's just worship Jesus for a few minutes. I'm not going to pray for your needs. And you say, what are we going to do then? We're going to worship Jesus. That's what we're going to do. If I said to you, tomorrow, why don't we all have a water fast? Let's just have water the whole day. It'll do all of our bodies good. And everyone says, okay, I'm in. The problem is we get to tomorrow, we're hungry, so we still want to eat. But sometimes it's like, well, what am I going to do with the time? I usually have my breakfast here. I usually go to the cafe down there at 7 o'clock in the morning. What am I going to do at lunchtime if I'm not going to? What happens at dinner? We're supposed to be sitting around. It's family time. God likes family time. It's like, what do we do? That's what church has become like. What are we going to do if we don't ask him for stuff? What are we going to do if we don't have the prayer time? Where we list all our prayer requests. Nothing wrong in it. But for today, even if it's just the next 15 minutes, why don't we stop thinking about what he can do for us and just get before him and recognize it's the great I am that's in our life. Jesus, all you've already done is enough. If you don't do a single thing more, thank you. If I had to go to heaven now feeling like that was all that you did in my life, you couldn't have done any more. You saved me, you changed me, you gave me life, you gave me eternity. And it won't matter too much whether you can't pay the car payment when you get to heaven. As long as you get to heaven and be met by the Lord that you love with all of your heart. So come on, let's stand together. Problem free. Get your eyes off the storm. Get your eyes on Jesus.